Hey Archer, how's it going?
Hey, it's going all right. Heading towards the end of the semester. Got a lot of finals coming up, but keeping my head above water.
Gotcha.
Griffin, how about you?
Fatigued, running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but keeping everything moving. And the new notebook, is that going well? Is are your arms and legs being spared of ink?
Yeah, it's become a very good system. I'm glad I have it.
Heck yeah. Is it structured in a way that only you can structure things as far as people I know?
Um, no, it's not nearly as complicated as any of my spreadsheets. It's just when I need to write a new list, I turn to the next page.
That's
So
very pedestrian.
sometimes that ends up with like 5 days worth of to-do lists in a row that mostly have the same things on them. I suppose I do have a little set of symbols that I use for myself to mark if something needs to be done a different way, but that's the most esoteric I get with it.
Gotcha. And how's the cosplay Instagram going? I saw that there's been some activity.
There's been some activity. Considering the lack of photos, there hasn't been as much as I would like,
Of course.
but it is frustrating because I want to take everything as far as it can go as quickly as possible, but that is simply not sustainable. And until I have something actually good quality to put there, I don't want to just be filling it with nothing.
No, that's absolutely fair. And with August approaching, we'll find you some excuses. I'll try. We'll get
Yeah.
Vinny roped in. It'll work. Okay, so I'm not scheduled to talk to anyone else today. Things had to get shuffled around.
Oh.
Yeah. So in the spirit of trying to keep a schedule with releasing these conversations, I figured you and I could sit down and go back over the first four conversations and sort of do a retrospective as a fancy term for it. And then, make it a habit to do these check-ins every four conversations or so. You know, uh, given that this whole project's kind of like building, I don't want to say building the plane while we're flying it because I hate that fucking concept. Like, I like plans. I like structuring and building beforehand. You can still learn and adapt as you go.
Sure.
Want to help me dive back into some of the topics that have come up?
Yeah, sure. Sounds fun.
Neat.
One of the things that I really value about our conversations is that a lot of the times the same things stick out to us, so we're able to discuss them more in depth than if each of us were bringing up like 1,000 individual points.
All right, so first chat was Lauren, who went into her. She touched on a like fear of death freeze, but I want to wait until later to tie that specific topic in because George also mentioned something about that. Um, but she did go into that idea of finding what you don't get bored of as a way to like focus your energy on your creative output or what you're trying to put your energy towards. And that is a interesting metric to test against because I do know some people who could talk about anything without getting bored, but I do know that there are some people who have hyper fixations on things that aren't really actionable. And I obviously have things that I've found ways to monetize as a gross way to phrase that in the common linguistic of our epoch. I'm trying to think of a way to make that more actionable and like a way it can be how
Yeah,
someone could self-identify. Yeah.
I think the term hyperfixations always gives me pause because I think a lot of people just use it to mean being very interested in something, and
Yeah.
that's not the actual meaning of the term. It's like it's a very specific term
Right.
for neurodiverse people. But in terms of like actual hyperfixations, they come and go pretty much at their own whim. So the
Yeah.
danger with building a brand or a social media empire on something that you are hyper fixated on is that one day it's going to stop.
Right.
And then you will not be able to continue at all because the creative, manic energy that was driving you to dedicate your entire life towards this thing is gone.
Right.
You will not be able to keep going. Honestly, on the subject of neurodiversity in like creative fields, when I was listening to Lauren, it reminded me a lot of a creator. She's on Dimension 20. She's written for a bunch of shows and stuff like that. Siobhan Thompson, you know of
Oh
her,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, in an interview that she did promoting a Dimension 20 season, she said something that's really stuck with me on being a creator with specifically ADHD, that because you get bored so easily, if you're not boring yourself, you're probably not boring other people.
Ooh, I like that as a more positive angled way to filter this stuff. That's great.
Yeah. Another issue with severe ADHD is feeling very sensitive towards other people not being interested.
Yeah.
So it was a very good like mindset shift to have of okay, my metric for losing interest in something is way lower than a lot of other people's. So if I'm holding my own interest for this long, chances are I'm holding theirs too.
Yeah, no, if you can get that self-doubt voice to like dial down while you're trying to create stuff, it really takes those speed bumps out, which then you can actually build some momentum with what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Actually, this project was born because I felt like I was doing a bad job on a first version of this concept where I was just trying to solo explain creativity psychology concepts and post
Mhm.
those online. But like, man, I was boring myself. Like I would listen back and be like, this is really dry. Um, I didn't have a lot of good examples because I only had my own angle, which there's maybe a dozen top things that like I actually apply and use actively. So everything else was very academic, and that's not bad, but it's you can get that in a book.
Yeah.
No, the other thing that I'm a little excited about is Lauren had that next project. The She mentioned her upcoming book In This Fair Chase, which she's getting closer to releasing. I got put on making the cover, and I had a very interesting moment where she asked me if I wanted to do the cover. She gave me the concept, and I did a really rough, like thumbnail with extra layers rough digital sketch. And I was like, something like this. She's like, that's perfect. Oh, and like, as far as she was concerned, it was done. And I had this like, oh, oh no, 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 give me that back, give me that back. So I had to like nudge her into being like, no, 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 let me do one more pass. What really wasn't print quality in terms of resolution. Happy to say that I kept the energy she was looking for and got it to a quality that I'm not going to be horrified to have my name attached to.
Yeah, that's always the thing about when you're working with people you actually like that you're friends with is sometimes they're very supportive and they genuinely love everything you do. So you try to tell them, "No, I don't like this isn't the final draft for me. I wouldn't feel good about putting this out there." And they're unwilling to not like anything you do. So they're like, no, this is perfect. This is great. Don't do any more work. Like, no, actually, let me do more work because I can do better and I don't want
Yeah,
to put that out.
that's very much what just happened. But yeah, no, I'm very happy to say that we're at the phase where like dimensions edits are coming in of like the exact size of the cover versus like the spine and stuff like that. So like I'm excited. I haven't gotten to do a book cover in a while.
Very cool.
All right, next person was Leslie, who had the Fish Queen musical.
Yeah, it was really cool not only to hear her talk about that, but I kind of got to observe it secondhand. I wasn't
Yeah,
able to make it to any of the shows, unfortunately, but I've heard our mutual friend talk about it. I heard you talk about it after you went to the shows. It's a great experience seeing not only the creator talk about her perspective in making it, but independently hear how positively other people were affected and like having the full picture of, oh,
yeah.
everybody enjoyed this, everybody was benefited by this.
No, it's kind of neat. One of the things that I liked most about that conversation was seeing similar community-based concepts pop up where the people are collaborating, people are tying their own creative passions together into other visions, performative or not, is just always my favorite thing. Watching Peanut Butter and Chocolate try to figure out the various iterations they can make of themselves. That metaphor seems to have puzzled you.
By the time I got it, any reaction I would have given would not have been appropriate anymore.
Entirely fair. But editing does exist, so that pause can be removed.
That was also part of the thoughts.
I've also been thinking more about the fact that that musical was born out of work that wasn't intended to be used together. So I recently I had to do a lot of like cleaning and reorganizing my space, and I found like a couple of old projects that I had not even remembered doing for years. A small book called A Tourist's Guide to Creativity, which was like a little illustrated advice guide on how to stimulate creativity in one's life that was literally written as if a travel guide for going into an imaginary land. Um,
That's
and
fun.
yeah, I had like printed maybe 150 copies and I had like two left. And then a
I
little,
want one.
oh, I'll grab you one. I'll bring it on. I'll bring it when I see you this weekend. And then I had another one, which was The Misadventures of West. I had this recurring character in some of my illustrations of a fox with wings and a unicorn horn. And I made a whole little like children's book of West kind of going through a dreamscape, essentially. It's a very weird project, but like it's got legs to it, I think. But now I'm like looking at everything I'm doing, trying to figure out like what else I can fit together with what to make something that is greater than the sum of its parts. Is there anything like that in costuming?
Sometimes, yeah. Within like the strict costuming classes, not that much, but in external stuff like designs for shows, abstract designs that I've done just by way of turning final projects into something that I can do easily and instinctively instead of
Oh,
needing to write a 15-page paper about it.
yep.
I've gone back and been very self-referential. I did a final for a class last semester where we had to do a 15-page analysis of pretty much any topic we wanted. So instead of going through the text and spending hours upon hours in the library, I decided I was going to do a costume analysis. And I
Oh,
pulled old designs, a lot from the Royal Shakespeare Company. They have great archives for costume designs. So I went back into RSC archives and pulled a bunch of original designs and did a full analysis of the costume history of the three main characters. And that was a way
ooh.
to reference past costume study that I had done, reference other people's costume designs, and give a little next on this show you'll see, where I got to bring it back into like, and here's how my close study of these kinds of designs informs what I do in the future.
Gotcha. It definitely sounds like you're stitching things together, which is on theme. I couldn't help it. I felt it. It was going to happen.
Yeah,
Sorry. But no,
it's
that's
all
great.
right.
I have to assume that there's a version of this in every type of creativity. I just some of the more tangible, hands-on ones, I'm not always aware of how that works.
In a much more tangible way, I do go back to old designs and old concepts, but I also go back to old projects that I never finished.
Oh,
Like yesterday, I was cleaning and I went through my mending box, and there's like a couple of projects in there that still have pins in them that I never finished, that I don't think I ever will, but I
yeah.
can reuse the fabric for something. I can
Gotcha.
turn a failed corset into a frog.
What's wait, a frog? Is that a clothing term?
No, it's not. So I had a lot of free periods, and they didn't want me like on my phone in classes, and I was sitting in classrooms for most of them. So I started just bringing a little plastic bag with a needle, some thread, some stuffing, and like some scrap fabric, and I made like 20 of these things, just tiny little frogs.
Can I have one? I'm is
Yes.
I thank you.
It's a pattern I found online. It's a very basic three-piece frog pattern. My friend Bird calls them the senior year frogs, despite the fact that I still make them. But yeah, no, when I say I can turn a corset into a frog, I mean I
Yeah.
can reuse the fabric on a frog.
Oh,
And I've also
so-
been looking into those like smaller toy type projects because I never make them for myself because why would I? I have enough knickknacks in the house. Um, but as like some of my family members start to look more seriously towards having kids, I want to
ah,
be the crazy aunt who always has like a handmade toy for them.
that's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
So, very topical for us, given that I get to go see her perform in 2 days at time of this discussion. Um,
Yep.
and you're coming with, but
Yes, I am.
Maddie from 20 Set a Tavern. Um,
Yay.
the the non-linear paths forward concept and the I don't know mindset have been floating around my head a lot lately. I don't know many people who have the capacity to approach anything professional or future with trusting that I don't know is an okay answer.
Hmm. I think it's rare. I think it takes a lot of practice to get there.
Oh yeah. I've gone through a lot of religions, a lot of philosophies, and I will say that going through Zen practices, they were it was a lot of the same thing I think I'm having now, where people would try to control the outcome of uncontrolled outcomes, whereas like having an I don't know mindset, I still feel myself trying to have a knowledgeable approach to an I don't know approach.
That's always the trick is how much can you pathologize your own process? And like how many layers of self-analysis can you sink into before it becomes actively harmful
Yeah.
and no longer helpful in the slightest?
It definitely feels like trying to chase a rabbit into the briars sometimes, where it's just doing more harm
You're
than
not
good.
built for
Trying,
that. They are.
no, yeah, but
Ideas
no,
are built to escape you. You are not built to catch every idea.
yeah. I wonder if that's why genius was originally concepted as an entity outside of yourself, where like it wasn't something you had any direct ownership of. It was just something that visited you if you were lucky enough to understand the moment.
I think that could be. That could also be why genius and madness always seemed to go hand in hand. Is
Yeah.
both were things you were set upon by an outside entity.
And honestly, if you are visited by genius and try to catch it and miss, you can drive yourself mad pretty easily.
I have a presentation due on that very concept in
Amazing.
an hour and a half.
Oh my God.
It's the last day of our Hamlet as philosophy class, and my friend Emily and I
Ah.
uh, were either given the honor or the insurmountable task, depending on your perspective, of leading the class through the analysis of the very last scene. So
Oh,
we've got Act 5, Scene 2, the big fight. Uh, and because both of us have had massively busy weeks, what we have done is each of us have gone through individually and taken our own notes, and we're going to meet up like 10 minutes before class, see how many of those notes match up, and play support on each other for the others.
heck yeah. It's kind of how I was trying to approach this. That makes perfect sense. I love that style.
That is effectively what we did for this as well, yes. And the
Um,
interesting part about it is both of those were suggested by each of you. I did not suggest this technique in either of them.
the other one that I really like that Maddie put the nail in the head or hit the nail on the head
Mhm.
of. I know how phrases work. Um,
Oh, yeah,
the
famously.
famously, the importance of hobbies outside of your creative focus. It's one of those things that I feel like a lot of people who I know who are creators, especially
Especially.
professional,
Sorry.
especially professional creatives, have a tendency to like over control that environment and fail to like have new input ideas and energy coming in through other hobbies and activities.
Yeah, I think I noticed that. It's unfortunate. Like, I'm not going to be enlightening anybody when I say that's a direct route to burnout.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember if Maddie specifically touched on it, but it was something that I was thinking about after re listening to your conversation with her. I feel very grateful that I am not solely responsible for making sure that I have other hobbies. Like, other people in my life bring me into other creative things frequently enough that I am not the sole arbiter of how I spend my time outside of my industry and my like academic life.
Gotcha. No, that's great. Yeah, no, I think it's one of those vital concepts that a lot of people can, especially because a lot of creators I know aren't as extroverted as some of the other professions, especially more like corporate professions where like communication is the goal most of the time. Like it can be tough for people who aren't naturally egalitarian, isn't the word, gregarious, who aren't naturally gregarious uh, to to be able to like be folded into other people's plans, like a D&D game, as it were, which needs to happen sooner rather than later when you're not as busy.
Working on it.
Okay, so finally, George, my dearest friend, probably one of the people I've known the longest in my life. He went back into something that Lauren had gone into of the fear of death and its effect on creativity, and like how being temporary beings, it can be crippling thinking that you're putting energy towards something that doesn't amount to anything if you don't view your creativity as inherently valuable, and how some people freeze under that pressure and other people are freed by the concept. And I'm definitely on the freed side, but a lot of people I know are like, what's the point? Especially like when things aren't going great in the world.
Mm-hmm. I honestly don't, I haven't been able to figure out where I fall on it yet because my relationship to death, for one, has been an interesting journey
Hmm.
and it's certainly not over. I'm gonna have a weird relationship with death for my entire life. Um,
That's a great
but
quote. We're putting that
because
somewhere.
okay, because I have been in so many situations as a young adult where I have been forced to confront my relationship to death earlier than I necessarily would have liked,
Yeah.
it has developed into its own thing. Like, it is not that I have a relationship to death within creativity and a separate relationship to death within academics and within
Ah.
industry and all of those. I have one relationship to death, and it is distinct and largely unaffected by my separate relationships to creativity, relationships to academics,
Ooh.
relationships to industry, because I've had to create such a strong barrier there. When death comes knocking in my life, it eats everything. So I've had to get very good at building a wall between it and everything, which has inadvertently led to death being a constant figure, but more an observer, not a contributor.
Interesting. So I definitely have my own distinctly separate relationship with death, but through very different constructs of just a personal series of experiences when I was very young that have made me. It's why I'm so reckless. It's why I'm so unstructured. It's why I don't worry about not having a plan in a lot of ways, because I've always been of the mindset that like that door's there and I have to go through it eventually. I'm not worried about any other door because nothing's going to be worse than that finality. So, like, what am I afraid of here? So, experimenting or playing with information or trying new ideas doesn't mess me up. Failure doesn't mess me up. It's like none of those things faze me because none of them seem real compared to that other thing I know is eventually waiting.
I can't make value judgments. I do not know what is better and what is worse. But I think yours At least to me, where I'm at this moment in my life, yours sounds more helpful than mine.
It definitely feels most times like my relationship with it seems more helpful than a lot of the ways my peers and friends and loved ones are interacting with it. Like mine definitely frees me from a lot of things that it seems to burden in others.
I like to think that death doesn't place any more of a burden on me than anything else does.
Hmm.
Its weight is not heavier than the weight of graduating or having dreams not be achieved. It is a friend in a lineup of things
Gotcha.
rather than something that looms way taller than the rest of them.
That seems healthier than a lot of people I know. But George and I did get to close out with him citing what I had forgotten I really put the nail on for him at some point, apparently, of my be the pebble approach to a lot of things. Like when things aren't going well and there's nothing I can do to fix that exact thing. Apparently, it impressed upon him when my instinct was to try to make other people around me happier in the moment that I can't make myself better off in. Because I can be made happy by knowing that exchange happened, but I can't improve the thing that was bothering me.
Yeah. I think the way I took that in my head, and I'm sorry, my memory is a sieve. I cannot remember if it's something that was put there by you or not. But
We're not going with salad
the
spinner
thing
anymore.
that
Sorry, continue.
is the other thing about being a pebble is that you're being kicked along by these other people along a
Ooh,
path, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a harmful or hurtful thing. The people in your life are kicking you along the path, and you're, getting worn down over time, and new little nicks appear in your surface, and you get smoothed down by some of them. And it's another way of having everybody in your life contribute to you as a creative, even when you're in stasis and not making moves, you are being moved.
I love that. Well, in an attempt to unpack concepts, we've definitely delved into philosophy, and I don't hate it. I'm looking forward to
Oh
seeing
no, not the
us.
philosophy.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing us do this again in a little over 2 months with the next four conversations.
Sounds good.
Neat. Well, I will see you in a couple of days for showtime. Otherwise,
What? Perfect.
one's for you, one's for me.
Okay.
Just the fact that I was able to get them to. I'm not going to do this on the recording.
No, don't do that.
No,
Do you think that's going to get used?
maybe. How's the new notebook working out? Are your arms and legs at least pleased with the ink poisoning not sinking in? Was that worse?
Sorry, you said notebook.
Well, we have our comedy clip for the end. Thanks for listening, everyone. Head over to shadedareas.com to learn more about the show, or head to patreon.com/createartrepeat if you'd like to support the show and maybe get some merch out of the deal. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay playful, and keep creating.